Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. We naturally approach relationships with a desire to have positive outcomes. For example, you want to have a sense of mutuality when you engage with that person in front of you. And when I say mutuality, you want there to be a give and take, a flow of affirmation, of coordination, of understanding of one another. And in the end, you find yourself thinking this is a good thing for both of us. Now, when you are engaging or when you're trying to relate with someone who has very strong narcissistic tendencies, not only do you not get that mutuality, but there's a strong possibility that abusive behavior will begin to emerge and then stay perpetual in the relationship. And when I say abusive, I mean that individual is trying to establish a form of power in such a way that a hierarchy is very firmly established, so that that person is on the high end and you're on the low end, and it's a permanent kind of a mindset between you and that narcissistic person. The more you have exposure to that kind of hierarchical thinking and the abuse that goes along with it, it changes you. It brings out characteristics or patterns on the inside of you that don't really serve you well. And I want us to take a look at what those changes can be and how you can respond. But I also want to put a little positive light on this too. The changes that a narcissist can bring to you can be negative, but in the end, and this is where we stand as Team Healthy, in the end, you can decide, you know what, I am going to change because of my responses or because of my exposure to that narcissistic person, and I'm going to change for the good. So we're going to get to that in just a few minutes. How does, though, a narcissist's abusive behavior change? What does it bring out of you that's not healthy for you? Well, first and foremost, one of the changes that the narcissist can create in you is that you feel a lack of freedom. Each one of us has the desire to choose as we will about how we're going to maintain our day, or attitudes, or opinions, or preferences, or priorities. And the narcissist gives the message loud and clear and repetitively: you will allow me to do the thinking for you. You need to make sure that you do things according to my specified agenda. Another way that they change you is your dignity is stripped away. That person more or less gives the message that says your decency, your acceptability is only as good as your utility to me. And so as far as you just having any kind of inherent worth, it's not there. The only worth you have is you doing what I say you need to do, and you feel it. There are times when it's like, I just guess I'm supposed to be some sort of enabler, a robot, a machine, according to that person, a cog in their way of doing things. Another change that comes about you is that trust becomes a great challenge. First, you can sometimes wonder, well, can I even trust myself? When you've been whittled away with lots of criticism and second guessing and anger and agitation, over time it's like, well, maybe I am problematic. And then on top of that, you can have difficulty knowing who else you could possibly trust. If this narcissistic person thinks poorly of me, who else might be thinking that way towards me that I just don't know? And so trust becomes a difficulty. And then that leads directly to another change that happens on the inside of you, and that is your defenses become exaggerated. I recall speaking with one woman, and she was having great difficulty grasping the concept that she had grown up in a very abusive home, and then she'd had multiple abusive relationships in her adult years. And so it got to the point where if somebody spoke, even in a mild way, a point of disagreement, she would just become real tense and agitated. And I would let her know, we want to work on that. Let's make sure that you're not so tightly defended that the simplest disagreement or reaction against you is going to create that kind of strong reaction. And she had a great difficulty with that because the trust was broken down, and that had become her norm. That's how it works when you're dealing with abusive narcissists. Another reaction and response that can happen, and that is you can be more of a reactor than an initiator. Going back to what we're already saying here, when you've been exposed to narcissistic abuse, you get to the point where you feel like you have to filter your decisions, your priorities, or your manifestations of yourself through the grid of the narcissist. Is this going to get me in trouble? Is this going to please or displease that person? Other times, another way that you can change because of your exposure to the narcissist is you can respond to that person's control with your own control efforts. How many times have you come back towards that controlling, domineering narcissist with your own forceful and strong-willed statements that can be very controlling? How many times do you feel like you need to control other individuals because you feel such a loss of agency within your own personal life? That's a natural byproduct of being with a narcissist. Yet another possibility after your exposure to narcissistic abuse is you have easy anxiety or tension or annoyance, and this sets you up for all sorts of other dysregulated emotions, starting with your anger and struggles with shame and guilt, induction, etc. And so your emotions can become in disarray. On top of that, you can stay stuck inside the shame game. When you're with that narcissist, there's so much of that one up, one down, blame and accusation and shame that you're constantly thinking, well, who's right? Who's wrong? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? And this inhibits you from being able to objectively break down whatever issues might be there on the inside because you're inside that blame and shame game and trying to figure out where you're going to stand with respect to that. Sometimes the change can come in the form of your own self-destructive behaviors, whether it's addictive tendencies or hanging out with the wrong crowd or cutting or rebellion. You can take a who cares kind of an attitude. Or sometimes you can respond in ways where you try to overachieve just to prove that you're an okay person. And then finally, we can say that one of the changes that happens when you've been exposed to narcissistic abuse is you can have extremes in your attachment styles. Sometimes you want to attach way too quickly and you can be too clingy. Other times it can create a cold and distant kind of a nature. And sometimes it's a combination of both. Now, the biggest question that you have, and I know that as you're listening to this, you can think, yeah, I've had a whole lot of these issues kind of pop up in my life. So the biggest question is, well, are the changes that have happened on the inside of me because of my exposure to that narcissist always going to be in the negative direction? And as I've mentioned, it can be, but it doesn't always have to be negative. I so recall one man that I worked with in his mid-40s. He'd had an abusive father, and because of that, he married a person that was not a good match for him. He admits that I didn't know how to choose very well, so he chose a very controlling and cold-hearted kind of a woman. It was very strained and difficult there. And here he was coming off a divorce and all sorts of difficulties and sitting in my office, and I challenged him. And I said, you can look at yourself and see that you've kind of, your life has become a mess. Now what? What are you going to be? Who are you going to do? And I reminded him of something that I mentioned to so many people, and that is your best thinking typically doesn't even begin till you pass age 40, because you have plenty of experiences to draw from. Where are you going to go based on that? And the real question is, do you have the resolve to be able to look at what you've been through and reflect on it, and then to say something different is going to happen? Here's how that can work. Based on your experiences with an abusive narcissist, you can resolve, I'm going to lean into my own independent thinking. I don't need to have somebody else do my thinking for me. I'm going to resolve to be a lifelong learner, and I enjoy the challenge of what that means. I never know everything that I need to know. I acknowledge it, and I look forward to learning. I like to receive input from others, but without an obligation to appease them or to please them. I also resolve to stand in my own inherent worth. What does it mean for me to be a person of dignity? And I'm going to remind myself that no one has the right to degrade me. I have my mind made up about my own inherent decency. I resolve to assist others in finding their worth, even as I'm trying to find my worth. I resolve to be honest and objective about those emotions that are on the inside of me, whether it's my anger or my fear, or my shame, my bewilderment. What are those emotions trying to teach me? What can I learn from the experiences that are there? What's the message that's pushing those emotions along? I'm going to pause long enough to determine how I can take that in a healthy and a self-correcting kind of direction. I resolve that I may still be defensive, but I'm going to be defensive only to the sense that I'm going to be safe. But at the same time, I don't want to be defensive to where it perpetuates psychological walls. I want to have a clean combination there. I want to practice empathy. I'm resolved to being that. I know that I have a backstory. What's your backstory? And I want to be tuned into other individuals who may have some similar experiences. And then ultimately, I'm hoping because of your experiences and the changes that have happened to you after being with a narcissist, I'm hoping you can decide I resolve to be a person of love, kindness and patience and tolerance, even as I also have firmness and steadiness. Love is what defines me, not my bitterness and not my reaction to negative individuals. In other words, what we're going to say is the narcissist can mean harm, and they don't even apologize when they bring all of their disarray to you. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, yes, I see what's happened to the inside of me, and someone needs to stand up and say, well, I want to be a non-harming person. And I'm going to be the one that says, watch what happens next, because what you meant for negative is going to turn into a springboard for positive growth on the inside of me. I believe in that with all my heart. That's why I became a therapist, and that's why I do the work that I do. I hope you can buy into that message loud and clear. You deserve nothing more than your own personal growth and leaning into the best version of yourself. And I hope that videos like this can give you some good things to think about. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. You know that I'm a big believer in therapy, and you're aware that I have been sponsored for years now by the people at BetterHelp.com. If the need is there, please get the assistance in therapy. The link is below, and I would strongly encourage you to invest in yourself in that regard. Likewise, on my website, you're going to find that I have online courses, classes that are very extensive. They're all in the website there. Each course has at least 25 teaching videos with handouts. I also have my 90-minute PowerPoint presentations under the webinars section. We have articles and books, so lots of resources there on the website for you. Go check it out and know that it's there for your assistance. And then just know that I really appreciate it when you allow me to be on your journey with you. I know that it can be difficult. It can be feel defeating when that narcissistic person keeps bringing their negative messages. But please make sure that you use it as a springboard for growth, and that you decide, that narcissist does not have the final word in my life and in my identity. That's something that I get to come to terms with, and I do it gladly because I'm on Team Healthy. I stand for dignity, respect, and civility. That's what's going to define you.